The Earth Kingdom has fallen.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom, and Avatar Last Airbender is getting some much deserved attention right about now. I don't need to give you the pitch, I've done it before, and I'm sure you are being bombarded with reasons to watch Avatar, so it's redundant. It's not a huge statement to say how good it is. We know it's good, but where is it strongest? Last Airbender is broken into 3 parts. Book 1, Water, Book 2, Earth, and Book 3, Fire. All come together for a larger narrative, but also exist to some extent as their own self-contained stories. So out of those 3, which was the best? Well, off the bat, I'd say Book 3 because that was the book I enjoyed the most, but I don't know if I can say that once I start really breaking it down. Because yeah, Book 3 had some major highlights. There was the blood bending, we learned about the culture of the Fire Nation, there was the Day of Black Sun, Buff Iroh, and a finale where Aang was in full-on Avatar form, whooping Ozai into next week. But all of that was with the benefit of the fact that it had the most to work with, and was capable of going to greater heights based on the fact that it was the ending, and we knew so much about the world and the characters at that point, where what we were seeing was to be desired. The expectations for what we wanted were not a mystery. Meanwhile, Book 1 feels the weakest to me primarily because so much of that time had to be spent on creating the foundation for the rest of the story. A lot of one-off episodes that didn't contribute to the end goal of the current story in Book 1, but would come into play later in the series or educate us about how the world works. So when thinking about the best, that would leave Book 2, the point where there was enough world built where they could focus on telling the story that they wanted to tell, but there wasn't enough there that the heavy lifting was over. There wasn't an uphill battle of we have so much ground we have to cover, like there was in Book 1, and they still needed to prove how good the story could be. And now that I think about it, Book 2 was the point in the story when the show was originally airing where I was like, wait, hold up, this is actually like, they're doing something here. So let's look at why Book 2 is so good. First of all, you may have noticed each book in Avatar follows a pattern of starting slow with episodes that build the world, develop the characters, build relationship dynamics, but tend not to do too much for the story. Then once they've set the stage, they start hitting you with engaging and high-stakes narrative. For Book 1, this process stayed in the slower part for a while because of reasons we mentioned. We didn't know the characters at all. We didn't have anything to go off of as far as how bending works as both a physical power system and as a cultural practice. How does the existence of bending and those cultures affect the geopolitical climate of the world? We needed to be given that information in order for everything that happened at the North Pole and beyond to make sense. And they also had to do that with episodes that were simple and entertaining enough to hold the attention of the target demographic. Then Book 3, I'll be honest, suffered a bit from the fact that there were story beats that needed to be hit, like the eclipse, like Zuko turning on the Fire Nation on his own terms, like Zuko joining Team Avatar, and then of course, Sozin's Comet. And because these beats happened when they were set to happen and should have happened, it was really hard for this to be anything but good. So it was good. But that doesn't also mean that leading up to those important moments, there wasn't a bit of dragging. Especially as Zuko had to have his time to realize why he wasn't happy in the Fire Nation, but that happened while the A-plot was basically Team Avatar filling time trying to blend into the Fire Nation in what are pretty subjectively enjoyable and unenjoyable stories. We of course got episodes like the bloodbending episode or Sokka becoming a swordsman, but we also got the Painted Lady episode, which is literally about the group being stuck in this town for too long. And then once Zuko joins the group, we got some great episodes of him one-on-one with members of the main cast, and as good as some of these episodes are, we can't pretend they don't exist purely because they are needed to be a believable amount of time between Aang beginning his firebending training and facing Ozai. And when you watch the series as many times as I have, it becomes more and more clear that that's the case.
I'm going with Zuko. What? Everyone else went on a life-changing field trip with Zuko. Now it's my turn.
But Book 2 deals with this the best, because there aren't many episodes in Book 2 where things are not moving the story forward in some shape or form. An episode like Cave of Two Lovers might not be story heavy, but it serves the purpose of getting us to Omashu, which is the next step in the overall narrative. The swamp might drag, but the events of that episode would lead to Aang pursuing Toph as his earthbending teacher. Even an episode like Avatar Day, where this just seems like background on Kyoshi and it's not actually relevant to the main story, Zuko did split off from Iroh, so technically that's kinda plot relevant too. It's hard to find any episodes in Book 2 that didn't in some shape or form directly push the plot forward, that don't help in guiding the group where they need to be, like the library in the desert guide us towards Ba Sing Se so they can find Appa and relay information about the Day of Black Sun to the Earth Kingdom. And episodes that most feel like they're just there to fill space or they force the story to stop are Zuko Alone and Tales of Ba Sing Se, which are two of the most memorable and critically acclaimed episodes of the entire series. So I've talked a lot about structure, but let's look at the actual substance of Book 2. One of the most important parts of the show in general is Zuko's face turn. Without Zuko's redemption, Aang would have never found a firebending master, and once Ozai fell, nobody would have been there to take the throne of the Fire Nation. Unless Iroh would have, which is not likely based on his attitude at the end of Book 3. And the most important moments of Iroh guiding Zuko towards redemption were happening in Book 2. Iroh teaching Zuko how important it is to see the elements as parts of a whole instead of as rigid and separate concepts. Using their experience in Ba Sing Se, leaving their past behind and living as citizens as a way to try to teach Zuko how to be content with a more modest lifestyle, instead of chasing a destiny that he feels pressured to fulfill. This was when Iroh taught Zuko that his father's expectations and his bloodline do not mean he needs to be this image of power and conquer the world, rather that he is capable of bringing a positive change to the world around him. Specifically, when Zuko became the Blue Spirit again, to take Appa for himself as leverage to capture Aang, but Iroh was there to set him straight, to tell him how irrational he was being, and how he was so caught up in the idea of what other people have been telling him he needs to be that he lost sight of what he wants for himself. These are the moments that molded Zuko into the person he would become, even though he was still drawn to the approval of his father, an approval that he dedicated his life towards gaining for years. He was given the guidance to realize for himself how little it would actually mean to him, and the guidance that led to that realization happened in this chapter of the story. Also, the climax of this book was pretty great, as expected. Of course, it didn't carry the same weight as Sozin's Comet, but Azula literally killed Aang in a huge battle, with Zuko and her battling Katara and Aang. The Dai Li was there, Iroh turned himself over to the Fire Nation to allow them to escape, and Katara was barely able to revive Aang, leaving such high stakes going into Book 3. And that's part of the thing about Book 2 that makes it so admirable, is it gave Book 3 the ability to be as great as it was. So looking at all these things, I feel compelled to say Book 2 was probably the best of the 3 books, and it really proved why Avatar was so special. But of course, even with all the evidence and arguments, this is subjective, so let us know what you think in the comments down below. You can find me at TommyPQM on Twitter and Instagram, or find the Roundtable on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications to never miss a video. My name is Tom, I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time. See ya!